Hello, tonight we're speaking with lead singer Sean Soho and lead guitarist Alex Donaldson from the band Crash Midnight. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great, man.
Okay, now...
Excellent. I did have your reserve. I'm from gas station in Florida.
Oh, okay. Now, I understand you guys are based out of Boston, Massachusetts. Now, of course, we know Aerosmith's from there and Boston, but is there much of a rock scene there these days?
You know, it's gotten a lot better. Another one that I feel like a lot of people don't remember is a great band called The Cars from Boston. They don't get a lot of accolades as being a Boston band for some reason, and then Jay Giles, too, are freaking awesome.
Okay.
But yeah, the scene's gone back and forth. There was a little lull when we were first getting going. There was some issues, I think, with a lot of the promoters. They were going around and they were booking a lot of the college kids who would just, I don't know, they kind of changed the model. They just wanted to shuffle in, as many people as they could. So any college kid that could bring his dorm mates down, they'd book, and they weren't necessarily, the best acts. And it really hurt the scene a lot because you didn't have, the quality acts going in there, so the regulars stopped going. But that's changed a lot in recent years here. They've started opening a lot of new clubs. A lot of young, hungry promoters have gone in and really tried to build good builds together and really try to revitalize the scene. And I've seen a lot of young bands out there that are doing great.
Okay, now I'd like to start off with you, Sean. I was curious, were you always a lead singer? Did you start off playing guitar or any other instrument? Or, as far as you being the singer in Crash Midnight, were you just the guy that had the best sounding voice?
Well, Lord help me. At first, I started playing drums when I was a little kid and then tortured my parents for a few years on that. And then I kind of fell out of music for a little while and got back in a little bit later on. And I think, I cut my teeth learning how to sing just, on my own to guys like Brad Delp from, Boston and stuff like that, and Robert Plant. And it was just, I always kind of gravitated towards those kind of rangy singers like that. And, I've played guitar my whole life, too. Once I got out of drums, I chose a little bit more tolerable instrument. And then getting out of that, I bounced around in a bunch of different bands. I played guitar, did some singing and stuff. And then with the Crash thing, it's just, we really felt strongly we wanted to have, a strong rock and roll five-piece, band here. And for that, the stuff that we were doing was just a little bit, it was a little too tough to hit all the vocal melodies and try to sit behind a guitar, too. And it's tough on stage because you get stuck behind a microphone stand.
Yeah.
So moved over to vocals and brought in Alex as the first guitar player we brought in here, and we haven't looked back.
I kind of find it interesting that, guys like yourself and even, Steven Tyler and Janie Lane, these legendary guys start out as drummers and they become singers. And I was curious, Sean, knowing that you...
we learned better.
Yeah. Knowing that you started out in the drums, I was curious, when you were drumming, did you always have a desire to be in the front of a stage, or is that just something that kind of happened later on?
Well, I think, when you're in that, a third grade thing where they make you all pick an instrument or something?
Yeah.
I decided I wanted to pick the coolest instrument that they had there and that made the most racket, so I went with drums, and some kids go with the oboe or whatever the hell else they do. But I went for the thing that had the most racket, and then I was playing the drum kit for a little while there, in junior high, and it's always kind of been I like being in the spotlight no matter what I'm doing, and it's kind of, it's where I feel like the most at home, I guess that's a little narcissistic.
And
I love taking the show, and it's just always been where I've been most comfortable is when I'm doing something that's where I'm at.
And then on the flip side of that, I'd imagine being that you're an experienced drummer and guitar player, that kind of makes you a well-rounded musician in the sense that you can kind of understand where other guys in the bands are coming from.
Yeah, and I didn't put up with any of their crap when they said that. That's a very positive way to say that. A negative way to say that is micromanaging, but...
So, Wow. So, Alex, I'd like to ask you, how old were you when you first started playing the guitar, and why was that your instrument of choice?
Well, like guitar, I definitely gravitated towards guitar because one of my very first memories growing up was seeing Mark Knopfler, play on MTV on the VH1, Solid the Swing video.
Yeah.
And then I started learning guitar in punk bands, actually. And the good thing about playing in punk bands is that you can pretty much perform immediately. There really isn't a very high barometer for weren't quite up to snuff here. So, but I thought they were. But that was like 10 years ago. So I've been played quite a bit. Did my thing, and that's how I make my money these days.
And I was curious if you guys. I was curious if you guys could educate us on the history of Crash Midnight. What year were you guys formed, and if you could talk a little bit how the two of you first met.
Actually, yeah, that's always a fun story to tell. So we kind of came together in the early, or I guess mid 2000s at that point. Alex was 18 years old and heading to school up in Boston at Berkeley. And within the first 2 weeks of us kind of knowing each other, we, Bo, our bass player, and myself wanted to start a band, and we've been bouncing around a bunch of other bands and stuff. And we're just trying to kind of get our hooks into what direction we want to go in. And Alex answered Ned to come hang out with us, and we were jamming on some stuff a little bit, in the early forms of what this band's direction was going to become, the kind of bluesy or hard rock stuff. And Alex just fit in instantly. And then within 2 weeks of him being up here, the whole infamous story of how we got our band happened. Bo got in a late-night car crash and called me and told me he had a great idea for the name of the band. And by the way, someone please come help me because my car is leaking gasoline on the rocks. And Alex was like, what the fuck did I just get myself into? I knew these guys for like 2 weeks at that point. It was crazy. And I was 18, man. Like, I was scared for my life. I'm from Ohio.
Wow, that's a great story, and one of the things I gotta say when I first found out about this band is I just really dug the name, Crash Midnight. You could not have, come up with a better name, and what a way to come up with the name.
Thank you. I think that you can't make fun of it, so that's what we kind of did. There's several ideas, but if you can't make fun of it, then there you go.
And then Alex, I'd like to ask you, being the lead guitar player, how do you and the other guitar player split up the parts? I mean, I assume you just pretty much take all the leads and he does everything else?
Yeah, pretty much. I feel that's a very double-edged sword because, on one hand, you don't want the other person to feel left out. But on the other, I feel, especially for a band like this, you really need to have that lead singer, lead guitarist dynamic. So, the other guy gets a couple little solos here and there, but pretty much all of the big ones are me. But the other guitar players in the band have always been fantastic. It's not that they, that I had some sort of weird ego thing. I just, that they all doesn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do what I don't.
And so,
you always want to avoid the Spinal Tap lead guitar, lead bass thing going on. So yeah.
And being that I'm talking to the lead singer and the lead guitar player of the band, I'd like to ask, how interlocked are you guys, like when you're on stage and everything? Because when you go see bands, those are usually two of the members that people are really locked in: the lead guitar player and the lead singer.
Yeah, definitely. You need that sort of identifying factor. Like, whenever the solos are split, it just has never worked for me, except maybe Tesla. Tesla is the closest kind of example where I think it almost kind of worked, but still Frank Hammond was still, my opinion, a little bit more band. Yeah, I feel like it's tougher to digest a band. It really is. People just want to know, like, okay, this is the quarterback, this is the receiver, this is the position that people are playing, and a lot of bands have a lot more of those. Everybody does leads, everybody does solos, and all that kind of stuff, and nobody's feeling get hurt. Yeah, it's cool. It's tough to get, like, everybody's always been good in this band at really just killing their position and owning it. Sure. And what's nice about it too is, that sometimes people try to marginalize the rhythm section. The rhythm section is really the most important stuff going on. Oh God, yeah. And last night we just had an article written about our heartthrob drummer here who was getting cheered off stage. But it's really cool. Some of the rhythms that get put down in here are leads in and of themselves, but just in much more rhythmic sense. And they're very, if not more important than a lot of the stuff that we're doing. Alex hits a bad note, it falls over, doesn't play for a second, and the show goes on. It drops out, and everybody knows about it.
Yeah,
And that falls out a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not a musician myself, but a lot of guys I interview, they tell me that when you go in to record the music, usually it starts with the drum track, and you kind of work everything else around the drum track.
Yep.
And that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
And Yeah, and I was going to ask you guys, like, I'm reading this press release your publicist sent me, and I think what it says in here is a great description of the band's music. It says the band is a collision of classic 70s stadium rock with a punk swagger. And that's kind of what I hear when I listen to your music. And the cool thing is, you guys aren't trying to be like a modern rock band or trying to follow any trends. You're just kind of, I can tell, this is the music you grew up on, and this is what you were influenced by, and this is what's, coming out. You're not trying to be anything else than what you guys are, and I think that's why the music is, really holds up as well as it does.
Right. Well, yeah, I think that's a perfect way to put it. We really aren't trying to be a flavor of the month. I don't think I could if I wanted to, because, I play a certain way, and I couldn't downtune my guitars, or I couldn't even play. I tried to play a 7-string, and I sucked on a 7-string. So I really don't have much of a choice, either in this sort of band or, I guess in a punk band or whatever. But
yeah,
I think it's a really good, good finger on it. What I've always been really proud about, this band is that this was a band on our own terms. We didn't take a look at what was out there and say, oh, okay, we got to use this as a model and go for it. We really just, we have a ton of different influences, everything from classic rock to, classic punk, and even, some stuff that has come out of new stuff. We find stuff everywhere. I mean, I think we borrowed ideas from everybody from Bob Seger to, Duran Duran, to Monster Bag. Yeah. And there's tons of bands that, may not have an entire catalog that's kick-ass, but, they might have a great lyric here and there. I've always been pleasantly surprised by bands, that band like, let's say, Leonard Skinner, who is, very cool musically, but, a lot of their stuff is, beating down the lyrical poetry doors. But then I love what I think there's something that's so on the nose, like the beginning of That Snow with, Whiskey Bottle, Brand New Car, Oak Trigger in My Way.
Yeah.
It's a surprisingly brilliant lyric, and we're just very true to life, I guess, to this band. So, we'll find something anywhere, and we just rolled everything we thought was cool into this band, and we're still pulling on stuff. You hear something new today, you throw it in there, and it becomes part of our own.
Yeah, I mean, to me that's that's the sign of great music. I mean, I always like these bands, like you say, Leonard Skinner's a great example. In their lyrics, are great storytellers and stuff. You got guys like, I'm typically into hard rock and metal, so but at the same time, just because I listen to Motley Crue and Metallica doesn't mean I can't throw on a Elton John or a Rod Stewart CD. Because to me, if the songs are good and the songs got hooks and stuff, that's what makes the music good. It's not a matter of, oh well, I was into Kiss, but Kiss isn't they don't have a #1 album this week, so I'm no longer a fan. To me, if you put it on, and you dig it, that's what's important.
Right. Yeah, we're actually currently in upstate Florida at a flying chase. I'm just waiting to get my ass kicked for those Leonard Skinner comment, but I had to go over it.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to feel instructor, but I love Leonard Skinner. With that being said.
Yeah. I'm reading this press release, and your debut album's called Lost in the City. It's going to be released November 18th, I guess. And I understand, even though the band has been around for 10 years, this is actually your first official release. So I was curious why it took you guys so... Well, I was saying, why did it take you so long to get an official release out? Just this is the first off...
That's a good question, Jason. Why did it take us so long? Let's put that out there. I think there was a lot of adversity that we faced here. Alex had some family stuff that he had to move back to Ohio for a little bit, and we tried to go with a different lineup, and it wasn't happening. It was almost like Crash That cover band, and we tried that for about a year, and it just wasn't there. And we were very fortunate that he got himself into a different place where he could come back. And then when he came back, we had to re-record all the parts. Playing. We actually it takes a band years to record an album. We had to do that twice.
Wow.
Not only were we signed, but we had the albums recorded, and then I had to go do the entire fucking thing again. Sean, mixed up a lot of stuff. The vocals sound awesome, but yeah, we had to perform double duty. This band is just such a testament to perseverance, in my opinion, because of that. We finally got it out. Oh God, last year's finally done. Then we had to wait for the promo to kick in. Now it's happening. We're on tour and we're loving it.
So let me.
In my opinion.
So let me.
That's why the title of the album is so good, because we really did feel like we were a little lost there in that city with the whole just spinning around in circles. waiting to finally get there. There you go.
So let me ask you, Alex, what was it like to come back into the band after you've been away for a while? And
basically what happened was, I was in the band when I was 18, and we were rocking and stuff. I went to school, but then unfortunately my father died, and I was like in one of the most expensive cities in the United States.
wow.
With just a financial rug pulled out literally from under me, and I was like, guys, my Berkeley degree in Boston doesn't mean shit. Like, I couldn't get a job anywhere with it. So I had to move back to Columbus. And in Columbus, I teach at I'm actually a guitar professor at a really great music university, so I have a great job over there.
Wow.
So, I was so excited to come back. I was actually really happy. They got some things going on without me I was really excited for. But, I've always been tight with the guy who runs our label. And when we all came together and, our father decided to rejoin this band, I think everybody was so excited and, it just started diving in and working and everything.
You're saying...
That's a great question. We haven't asked that one yet.
Yeah, and you guys were saying once you came back to the band that you had to re-record the material. I was kind of interested in... did you listen to the stuff they done with the other guitar player? Did you...
Oh, yeah, it sucked. That's just like... I'm just joking.
No, I was just curious, like, did you kind of play the stuff note for note the way he did, or did you kind of, once you came back into the band, kind of rewrite the stuff and put your own taste?
They took my parts and played them differently, but pretty much what I did was I took my parts and played them, like, how I did when I was 19 or 20. So, I don't know, it was a different thing, because they had kind of two lead guitarists going, and it wasn't really like a unified sound, in my opinion. So I think, with one guy doing all the solos and stuff, I think it was completely, I think the record sounds a lot more consistent now, I guess. And a lot more heavy, a lot heavier, a lot better guitar tones, but, that's just my personal opinion.
And I understand you guys are...
What was nice, too, was the perspective on everything. I think, being gone for a little bit, both, and hearing how other people approached it, and also just allowing us to run it through a couple different filters. That's the toughest thing about this band being around so long. All the songs that are on this album, almost all of them have been around for, 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, 151 was around before we even, knew what Christian was going to be. I wrote that Welcome to Boston lead when I was just 18. I wrote it during the audition, because that used to be a lead in one of my punk band called the Ken Starport, and a song called Alcohol.
Wow.
I took that entire lead and just threw that to Welcome to Boston. It's crazy.
See, again...
This material's been around for a while. So for a lot of this stuff, Jason, it was just, you play something for so long and you just don't have a perspective on it anymore, and you're like, how can I make this any better? This is just, this is what it is. And I think having the other guys come in and shake it up, even though they might not have had the best ideas, they also, they kind of made you think a little bit differently about stuff, and it allowed us to craft songs. When we went back and rewrote them, it gave us a little bit different headspace, and it ended up being a lot better for it, I think.
And
I agree.
And again, I think the thing that just goes to prove is that it doesn't matter if a song's written today in 2014 or 5 years ago. If it's a good song, it's a good song. It's gonna hold up. And
very true.
And that's the thing. So I see you guys are signed to Universal Music. I was curious, how did you hook up with them? Did they come to you guys? Did you send them a demo, or how did that come about?
Well, we are going to kind of, aid ourselves in that, they actually initially approached us off of, MySpace was big back in 2006, when I was like 20 or so.
Wow, yeah.
It's kind of actually getting momentum off of that. And that's how we got our initial deal with, Chris Brown and Bronx Bridge, which is a Fontana label. So, yeah, we were signed, we're getting some traction off that, signed through that, recorded the album several times, and boom, here we are 10 years ago.
And so what's the plan for the new album? Because again, I see that the album's coming out November 18th, and you guys are currently on tour with the Pretty Reckless. You want to talk a little bit about how the tour's been going?
Oh, God, yeah. Let me start this one. This is a fantastic tour to be on. I mean, first of all, like, the Pretty Reckless, especially, it is great to be on tour with a band that you genuinely enjoy, love watching every night. You get up there and Taylor has this like Joan Jett, but it's also all her own thing.
Yeah.
Attitude. It's just, it's really special for like a young girl like that to just be like flipping that amount of attitude and everything, and it's really genuine too. It's very cool. And you know what I love about it too is you see so many young girls coming in there, and it's a great role model to them. I mean, she's not stripping on stage. She's not exploiting herself. Exactly. A little bit of that with the album cover and stuff.
Yeah.
But she owns that, and you see those girls up there, and we were talking a bunch of them last night. It was a very young crowd last night in Fort Lauderdale, and these girls come up and they're like, they see her and they realize that they can be the star. They don't have to hang back and be hanging off the arm with some guy. Like, they can be that. They can go out and go achieve for themselves. And as a front man, I love seeing, a strong female front woman because there just aren't that many of them out there. Yes, exactly. And another cool side note is actually, the band, the rest of the members of Pretty Reckless were actually in a band we used to play out with several times in Boston. Their name was Famous.
Okay.
They were a fantastic, really, really great trio. So it's really cool also hanging out with those guys again.
Wow.
It's funny how it all kind of, I guess, worked and came together. But,
Yeah.
they sound fantastic. They always have.
And then,
And then we'd be remiss not to mention Adelita's Way, who is all together. All the guys in that band are fantastic. They've been cursed with having to share the green room with us. Yeah, exactly. So we've been drinking all the beer, but they're great guys too, and we've had a lot of long conversations with them and stuff. And we've definitely been hanging out with them on a daily basis. They're great guys, and I've been listening to that band for years, so it's cool to be touring with them as well. Vocalists, guitarists, bassists, everybody's super, super talented.
So as far as
the best part about it is I think all these bands push each other every night. If we have a great night, then Adelita's Way it goes on after us, and they're pushed by that, and then they go even better. And it's pretty much the follow those two acts, and then it's just the bands are getting a better and better show by everybody pushing each other.
Yeah, I think the great thing about a tour like this is the fact that your album doesn't come out for another month, and so are you kind of finding that people that are coming to the shows are fans you already have, or you're getting a lot of new fans?
Tons of new fans. Yeah, with this crowd, because in my opinion, the Pretty Reckless crowd is a lot different than your regular active rock. So we just got off with Seven Dust and German, which was a fantastic tour. The Pretty Reckless crowd is a completely different animal for in my opinion, great reasons.
Yeah.
They're all people who might not always listen to the active rock radio station, but they love obviously heavy music. They're very receptive to the bands playing. They're there early. Things are always full when we go on. Sometimes we go on. Obviously going on first.
Yeah.
But it's been a fantastic tour, fantastic bands, and they're very well received. Actually.
Yeah, and
she's trying very nicely to say that it's the jailbait tour.
Well, I think the great thing too is you guys are on a package like this, and again, the album's not even coming out for another month, and so so that's a great way to build a fan base and get people in to buy the album. Now, as they say,
exactly.
You have your whole life to write and record your first album, and like you said, a lot of these songs have been in your set list for the last 10 years. So I was curious, when you go to record the next album, do you think you'll write really new, fresh material, while you're on the road in that, or do you have any older material still left over?
Well, with Heroes, yeah, we definitely do it both. Like, Alex and I have been jamming on a bunch of some stuff that I've been doing a lot lately. Last year or two, I've written a bunch of stuff that's a little bit more in the kind of real throwback to like the 70s, Towards the Attic, Aerosmith stuff.
Yeah.
The Get Your Wings stuff, like a little bit more sludgy, but like very 70s heavy. And then also, we've got some stuff that I feel like sounds more like Exile on Main Street style Stone stuff. But then we also have so much material that didn't even make this. I know, yes. That we have so much to choose from. Plus, what was writing new stuff, we probably got 3 or 4 albums worth of stuff already. That we can draw from. 10 years. Yeah, you got to remember, we've got albums and albums worth of stuff, and it just depends, where we're at, what we're feeling at that point, and and where stuff kicks off after this. It's always a crapshoot on where you go from here. much.
Yeah.
You don't get one album to make a name for yourself. You don't get those like I'm going to grow through your debut, second, third, maybe fourth album you hit and become big. That doesn't happen anymore, you know.
Yeah.
You got one single.
Yeah.
What they're doing. There you go. We decided to waste that alcohol.
And so when you guys record, I was curious, how do you go about deciding which tracks are going to make it onto the final album? Does everybody kind of get a say in that? Do you vote on it, or what's that process like?
You know, a lot of it was how the stuff went over live, and it's funny. There's two singles that didn't make it onto this album that were huge live, but just didn't make it for recording. They didn't materialize in the studio exactly. So I think it's a little bit of both. Like we have a song called Whiskey Rose and a song called Suicide Tattoo that were huge live, but for one reason or another, they just weren't making it in the studio. And then all of a sudden, you know, this Welcome to Boston song came back, and again, like that was a song. It was originally called Nothing to Lose, but it wasn't going to make the album because it just kind of seemed like a trite title and everything. But the song is just about, you know, the fuck you mentality of Boston. You know, where it's just it's a very interesting city, and I like to compare it a lot to you know, almost like a sibling type of thing. Like if you have a brother or sister, like you don't let them get away with shit. But if anybody fucks with them, you know, all hell breaks loose. You come to their side, and that's very much the way Boston is. You know, if somebody looks at you the wrong way, all of a sudden the gloves get dropped and they start fighting. But if somebody with a Yankees jersey or something starts picking on somebody with a Boston jersey, the entire guys with the bees on their shirts come swarming in. So it's really an interesting city, and I've never seen anything else like it. And that was what the song was originally about. And then it just kind of, as we progressed and stuff, and as Suicide Tattoo and Whiskey Rose just weren't up to, you know, the bar that we wanted to set for ourselves, this one just pulled its way onto the album. And oh my God, we're so glad it did. The Patriots are using it at all their home games. I got to sing the national anthem before the Patriots-Browns game last year.
Wow.
The Brewers using it. Boston College is using it for their basketball and football. Like, it's just been huge for us.
Yeah, you know, to get on a more serious note, I'd like to ask you guys, being that you're from Boston, you know, were you very close to where the Boston, you know, bombing took place a couple years ago?
That actually happened right in our, like, you know, we all kind of lived in an apartment in Fenway, you know, because I was attending, so that's right around the area, and those literally happened steps within our apartment. I was in Columbus, Ohio at the time.
Oh, okay.
And I just was so emotionally hit by those bombings. You know, they're saying bombings on Boylston Street, and I'm like, wow, that's where I went to, you know, school, and you know, I ate lunch there all the time. And so I was very emotionally affected by that, you know, and I was in Ohio at the time.
Wow.
And then I was experiences.
Yeah.
And ironically, I was actually in Los Angeles at the time with my girlfriend, visiting a friend out there, and thank God I was, because she was there. Yeah, exactly. I mean, she was right behind it, and yeah, we would have been right down by the end of the race there, because that's the closest place to where our apartment was. Like, we were right there. You know, for people who you know haven't been, Marathon Monday is, you know, really such a fun experience in Boston. I think Mardi Gras. It really is. It's Boston Mardi Gras. It is such a positive atmosphere for that to happen on that day. You know, was really struck a chord with me. You know, in the wrong way, I guess.
Yeah, and it's such
You've never seen a fan base like when people were cheering when they found that guy. I mean, it was amazing, the cooperation the city put together. I've never seen shut down the entire city. Like, again, that's just how Boston is. It's like, okay, well, we're circling the wagons now, and we're in the fight. You know, it's a different place, and it's very special, and it's tough to describe to people who haven't lived there, but it really is a very special place to us.
And it's such a shame when people, you know, one jerk like that could, you know, ruin, you know, what's supposed to be a fun event, you know, or, you know, something just to, you know, to get back to music, I'd like to ask you guys, as far as your recording process, do you guys do you get in the studio and you record it as a live band, you know, old school way, or do you kind of do what they most people do, and you kind of just record your parts separately?
It's different. I mean, I think we've definitely done a lot of stuff where we kind of coach each other. It depends how drunk we are, really, honestly. If we go in there and it's kind of like a quiet day, you know, we might try to lay some stuff down, whatever, and then do it separately, and that goes kind of slow. Or if it gets to that point where, you know, that's not happening, we're like, all right, let's go to the bar, let's grab some stuff, you know, whatever. And sometimes those days work great, sometimes those days don't really work well at all. But you get some jams where you got like half the band just kind of like, you know, air jamming with somebody while he's doing a solo or playing a part. And sometimes you just get that, because really what we're about is a live show. And and we get this over and over again. They're like, guys, the live show, like I heard your stuff like recorded, but live it was just like, it's just, and that's because the energy, it's very difficult to capture that live energy on an album, and I know bands struggle with that all the time, but sometimes those days where everybody's jumping around in the studio can help you get what you're trying to go for there.
Yeah,
and that sort of human performance that I think is missing in a lot of music here today. The more you polish it, quantize, and do all those computer tricks and stuff, the more you just suck the life right out of it.
Yeah.
There's a point, and I understand maybe fixing a couple flubs because it will take hours and hours to go back and punch all that crap in, but sometimes that's the best stuff. What the hell is that? I'm blanking on the Led Zeppelin song where the plane flies over the middle of the ship. He's just like, leave it,
Yeah.
Sometimes the personality to that stuff, that's what adds the human element to it. And that's the biggest thing, I think, with music, is the human element that adds character to it. And that's the mistake.
Yeah, and again, to me, it's all about the songs. And if you got the songs, and you can be a great looking band, but if you don't have the songs, you're not going to last. And so as far as the songwriting, I was curious, do you guys typically write all this stuff, or does everybody contribute?
A lot of times it'll be, me bumping a riff off of Sean, or, he plays guitar too, so sometimes he'll come at me with a riff or a chord progression, and, I'll have to reverse engineer some sort of badass beat behind it, or, he'll have a vocal idea. It really comes from everywhere. Or, he'll have an entire song written. Or he'll take one of our old songs and make it a new song, like Welcome to Boston. It happens so many different ways. And I think every song has been different. Like nothing ever comes out the way that it goes in. Like I'll write an entire a song, soup to nuts, very simplistically on an acoustic or something like that, and then it'll get raped and mangled and bashed around by everybody until they all kind of put their own stamp on it, and that's what ends up coming out and sounding like Crash Midnight. And honestly, every single song goes through that process, and that's why it always sounds like us, is because it's got that stamp on it. Alex will come in, you'll hear the riff, and be like, okay, I see where you're going with that, now let me put Alex into that, and all of a sudden it kind of takes that turn, and then Bo has been phenomenal, especially with a lot of instrumental shit. Well, I mean, he does that too. If there's anything that even smacks of cheesiness, he will go going on that. That's probably the heaviest into the punk stuff. So he just has zero tolerance for anything that sounds cheesy or bullshit or whatever, and he'll just call you right to task on that. So, and that's really the way it works. We just all mangle it around until it sounds like us, and it ends up making us all happy in the end.
And Sean, do you ever write like lyrics first, or does it typically start with music most of the time?
It depends. I mean, I've done it a bunch of different ways. Like sometimes I'll just kind of hear something. I'll wake up in the middle of the night having dreamed about something, or I'll hear another song. And I think I was saying this the other day in an interview where it's just like sometimes I'll mishear what somebody's saying as a lyric. It's like, oh, wow, that would be way better if they had written what I was mishearing there. A song based off that. So I think you can kind of get ideas from anywhere, and for me, it's always been a mixed bag, and it's just whatever gets the job done.
And the last thing I want to ask you guys about, as far as touring, it's probably the biggest tour you've been on since the inception of the band, and I was curious, where's been some of your favorite places to play?
California venues have been fantastic. Every single House of Blues venue on our tour, whether it be Boston or there've been a number of House Blues venues. They've always had every element, of the stage, the catering, the crowd. I've really got to give them props. That they've all been fantastic venues to play.
And
that great sound, professional staff, and actually everywhere on this tour has been great. Yeah, I came out, guys. I've been very impressed.
And as far as once the album comes out, has there been any talks of you guys playing overseas, or does that kind of depend on how it sells overseas?
Well, the music charters overseas, yes, we do that. Yeah, I mean, we're not Canada charters overseas. We're obviously open to playing anywhere. Everything we hear about Europe has been, super positive for this kind of music. So we definitely want to get over there. But again, just like you said, it really, really depends on how everything goes. You just don't get more than one shot with stuff, and I think I heard it described one time as, the music industry is a lot like, accelerating cogs in a wheel. You got that big wheel where you're on at the beginning, and that's where all the main bands are, like all the early starting off bands. Yeah, how they jump right. Yeah, so then I was cogs, I like to think of the music industry as the Titanic sinking. Ship is gonna sink, so I'm gonna have the last glass of champagne at the falls down. I like it.
Yeah. And the great thing about that is, though, the cream of the bands that are really the cream of the crop, they'll have staying potential, and the bands that are really good, they'll be the ones that stick around. Because I think, like you're saying, years ago, the record industry kind of really ruined it for themselves. And the cool thing about it is, it puts it back in the power of a musician. You don't have a guy in a suit necessarily telling you, no, I don't hear a single. Go back and write something. You guys are kind of able to, put out what type of album you want to put out.
That's seriously the thing that we're the most proud of is, again, like this album is on our terms, and thankfully so much to our label, to Chris Brown, the head of our label, who supported us and let us make this the way we wanted to make it. And I think we were just kind of jaded with what was going on in rock radio for a long time. We're listening and we wanted to hear this hard blues rock stuff, and just nobody was doing it. There was a lot of approximation of that's almost what we want, or that's almost what you want to hear, and it's just at this point we're just like, hell, if nobody else is going to make it, we're going to do it, and we've pulled everything we thought was cool and put it together here, and I think that's what's connecting with people. Well,
Sean and Alex, it's been great talking to you. I could talk to you guys all day, but I know you're very busy. And so I'd like to interview you maybe once the album comes out, and we can talk a little bit about how the album's sold and that. But it's been great talking to you, and anytime you'd like to do this again, I'd love to talk to you. So I'll luck to you when the album is
Thank you so much for your time.
released.
Thank you, Jason.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.